Hi, I'm Darla Karen, and I have my sister
Karen Schwenzig.
and we're going to be showing you how to make a pet mesh ditty basket. And Linda has taken and they've kind of exploded, all different sizes. We have like 3 sizes that are right here to make, as well as the tray. And it could actually be almost like a bowl.
And there's some larger sizes too, even up to 12 inches. And she has a video out already how to make the cloth ones, but we're gonna make it with pet mesh.
And this is a rectangle ditty box. And what you do, cutting the fabric is just like cutting the pet mesh. It's just like fabric. And you wanna take the template and cut it out. So I've done that. Then you're going to want to, for this size, it's 4 inches at the top of each side, and you want to cut your fabric that you want to use to bind it in a 4 inch by 4 inch, because it's 4 inches across. And what I did is I took a 2 inch piece of decor bond and ironed it to the back, and then I ironed it in half. And then I ironed the centers in, so it ends up being just like a binding once it goes onto the pet mesh. So I am going to give this to Karen then, and she's going to sew.
Now sewing this, I'm gonna sew just shy of that first fold line, so it gives it a little bit of wiggle room when you're doing this. And I wanna make sure I'm not on my 1/4 inch seam. There we go. And because the pet mesh is black thread usually works best, then you don't really show up. Okay, do some backup. Did you want me to put the next one on?
Yep, then we can do the next one.
And you can just twirl it and start with the next one.
And you do that same thing and go around.
Do it all the way around.
And then once you've got it all sewed, then you trim off all your threads. And as far as watching, you don't need to watch too much more, so we'll phase this out, and then we'll show you the next step.
But if you want the template.
Okay, now that we've got all the sides sewed down, we're going to take this and flip it up and over, and then we're going to take and top stitch like we have done here for all these. So I'm going to give this to Karen to do, but I'm also going to explain to you all of the binding pieces that I did. They're all 4 inches in height, which Linda has a ruler that is 4 inches wide that you can cut a strip, because that's what I did, is cut my strips first, and then after I cut it, then I have the 2 inch wide that would be for the interfacing that I used. And I always did the interfacing 1/2 inch shorter than the width of whatever size I'm doing for the boxes. And with this one, it was 4 inches, so I would go with 3.5. And that's what gets ironed up inside.
Also, when I'm done top stitching that, I trim the sides just slightly because it'll have a little bit excess there, and then you don't have to worry about that when you're trying to finish your corners up.
And it also won't go into the binding. Let you know that you can just take the 2 inch ruler and fold your fabric in half and cut your strips, which would equal 4 inches to make the bindings for the boxes. So now that we have the top stitching and the inside and the outside done, what we're going to do is put the outside part to the center, and then we're going to match up our bindings, and then we're going to clip them for a moment, and we're going to go to the other side and do the same. And then we're going to take 1.5 inch wide black cotton fabric, and you're going to overlap it about 1/2 inch, and then you're going to sew 1/4 inch down. So I'm going to
And I just switched my sewing machine to 1/4 inch seam allowance. go there. Take that clip off. Back stitch. Don't forget to back stitch to stabilize that. And you're going to do this to then all 4 corners of this.
But in between, though, we can only do 2 right now
Yeah.
because we have to be able to put in the tape measure. And the tape measure I used is 1/2 inch tape measure. And I rounded the corners and then put electrical tape on the end so that it can't fray out the fabric over time. And you're going to need 4 of these. I just did a single layer because the tape measure that I used is pretty firm. So I just used 1 layer. If you have a more wimpier tape measure, you can use 2 layers and tape them together. And I use just a regular tin snip scissors to cut when I cut and to round them. And just with electrical tape to and Karen's almost got the one
Both
part
sides
done. And then we gotta flip it over.
I just need to get my threads here. Get them cut off. And when you get that sewed in, then you cut the other end of it too, leaving about a 1/2 inch from your end of your seam there.
And then once you have it sewed, then you're gonna take and do it. And I usually try and do like at an angle for the first part and bring it over. And then I fold it in half.
Gotta get your fingers out of the way.
And then I fold it in half again. And then I put a clip.
Apparently I didn't get all the threads cut.
No. That's okay. I can work around it. And then the same to this, I just back it so that it's a little bit wider, and then fold it in half up to the seam basically.
Fold it so the raw edge is up next to the pet mesh and then fold it up on top.
Yeah, and then clip it, and then I would start at the pet mesh folded area and sew on the edge like 1/8 of an inch from your binding that you put on, and you want to backstitch on each part, and you do that for both sides. So once she sews that, then we'll probably phase out, and because you don't need to see the other one done. And then we'll come back and then I'll show you how to put the tape measure in, and then once the tape measure in, then we do the other 2 sides and it's finished.
I got extra thread there. There we go. Take the clip off and hold it in place. Did you want to show that?
Do the same thing on this one.
Yep.
So I don't know if do you want me to do it again?
Yeah, let's go ahead and show it just for a referral.
Okay.
Just so you can see how fast and easy this is.
That's probably a big clip.
That's definitely a big clip. Move it down.
So while she's sewing this side, Darla, talk about the tape measure, because there's tape measures that you get at like Dollar Tree that are wider than this. And you said that's a 1/2 inch. Where did you get that?
I've went to Menards. I'm sure they have them at Lowe's or any of the other
hardware store.
Yeah, hardware store. I get them when they're on sale. That way then I'm not paying full price for them, but they are a stiffer, firmer, and it is nice to have the 1/2 inch to do like 1 inch on the, because it's what stabilizes for it. And then if you overfill, it will bend out. But for the most part, when you go to grab it, it holds its shape.
Now, if somebody does have a tape measure that's wider than that, and they don't want to go buy another tape measure, let's say it's 5/8 inch or an inch, you could change the measurements for the fabric and it would still
You
work?
could do a 6-inch
You could just
height.
make this a little bit deeper and then it'll fit it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, now since she has the side sewn, we're gonna take, and these pieces I cut 1 inch shorter than the full width of it.
So we're at 3 inches instead of 4 inches.
And I'm gonna just peel back the fabric up to the pet mesh, and I'm going to, it's gotta go this way.
And talk about the direction too, because it's
Because
curved.
this is where it bends, and this is gonna be the inside once it gets turned inside out. And so I want to be able to put this in.
You want the curve facing you when you insert
Right.
it.
And the curve is going to be inside the basket.
And if
Yep,
you,
next to the pet mesh.
yeah, and you want to put it so it goes as far down as you can. And so I have these like plier tweezers that I can shove it down in, and then you take and do the same to this side. And I want to do it right to the pet mesh right here. And
So now
I
she's
want-
going to have the curve facing away from her since she's doing the opposite side like that.
Yes. And then I'm going to put it in, and then do the same to this side. And I'm going to have the curve to me. And then this side is going to be facing me since I turned it around. And we're going to slide it all the way in, because you do not want to have this so that when you sew on it, you don't want to break a needle, because you will break a needle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and this is just a little sewing machine, and it's doing this pet mesh just fine. I'm not having any trouble sewing it.
Yeah, and this is just cotton. If you're going to use a heavier fabric, then you're going to have to
Quite a bit of thickness there.
Yeah, you're going to have to weigh in the.
If you do the thicker fabric, though, you will probably don't need the stabilizer at that point. You could just do the fabric.
Okay, now I'm going to bend it this way, and then I'm going to clip this, and then clip this, and you're going to try and match so that your bindings come together. And then you do the same process that you did on the sides. And this I would do again is start with a small, thinner side and work up to the bigger side.
No, we went this way for the first part. The second part was
yes.
that way.
Yeah, the second part, sorry. That's right. Forgot.
Sisters.
I'm there to correct her. What
well,
else am I
hey.
here for?
But it's helpful to have a sister to remind you. And now everybody out there has two sisters reminding you of what to do.
Oh, I think I went off the landscape here a little bit. Hang on. Let's get back in straight. There we go. Okay. You won't, that seam, if you're a little bit off, just go back and correct it, because it's going to be inside the binding, so nobody will know. Of course, you all know because you just saw me do it, but
You did it on purpose to make us feel better. Because you knew we'd probably do it too.
I teach a class, and they all think that the teacher doesn't make mistakes, and then they see me make a mistake, and they're like, oh, you make me feel so much better. I'm like, great, but I don't feel better. All right, do the same on the other side. That's a little bit off there. There we go.
So Darla, talk about fabrics. With this has kind of a patriotic 4th of July, Memorial Day theme, but you said the black pet mesh is pretty popular. That's the one you can find most of the
That's
time.
where I find
It's
it.
the
like-
cheapest as well.
Yeah, you can get it at Lowe's, probably anywhere where they have like screens for screen doors that they put in, because it's a pet screen that you purchase. And black goes with just about any color, and even just fabrics with cotton that have black in them work really good for going with it too. You're not stuck to any one certain color because black goes with everything.
And even this one with the red and
Patriotic.
yeah, it's got
It's
black in there,
shiny,
so
and it
fits.
irons up really well. I was surprised because a lot of times when they have this sparkly, they usually, when heat gets to them, they shrink and shrivel and do, and this did not do that. So it was very nice.
And that was from Hobby Lobby, you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back to the pet mesh for a minute because, you know, I love that quilt shops carry some of this stuff. Specialty
colors.
shops carry it, and they carry different colors. But if you're doing black, you don't need to buy the expensive stuff. You go to Home Depot, Lowe's. You said you got yours at Menards. And where I am in Florida, we don't have Menards here, but you don't need to buy the expensive stuff that's specialty from quilt shops unless you're looking for a color. Those are harder to find.
Yes.
But the regular black that's a plastic for, and it's called pet mesh.
Yep. It's to keep your cats in the house. They can't scratch through it.
Pet screen, pet mesh.
Yeah, pet screen, pet mesh, yes. But you guys can see how quick this project will whip up, especially if you're doing assembly line. And the nested ones that we have here, these were done with my original size of the Ditty Baskets, which was it a half an inch or 3/4 of an inch? I think
Probably half an inch.
half an inch larger than each. I'm going to change the templates and make them an inch in between. So the new sizes that I have that you'll be seeing in a couple other videos, I have a 10, 11, 12. They'll nest down in there. If you look at the ones that are nested on the table, they're not nesting
They
in.
sit up pretty good. If
So-
she does them an inch apart, they'll sit down inside
Yeah.
and go better.
And the fabric ones nest. So when I made the original sizes, I did it for fabric. And then Darla, with her pet mesh projects that I love, when you do the tape measure, it's not going to nest as well. So if you don't care about them sitting inside each other, then my original sizes that I had that were closer in size would work fine. But if you like the idea of having them nested, then you can get the template so that there's a 1 inch increment difference.
I can see better.
And you did fabric here. You could do seam binding tape that's already prepackaged, but I
Bias
like
tape.
yeah, the bias tape. I like your method
Bias
better.
tape is almost too narrow because it needs to be really narrow. You know, it comes narrow. And I like a little bit more give width because I can fold up more if I don't need it as wide or vice versa. So
And I think
it's more versatile.
doing this process is faster because I'm a cheater and I like to use bias tape, the wider bias tape that comes out to about the same width. But to me, this is faster than me trying to finagle the bias tape.
Especially
So
if it's already pre-ironed and folds, because then you kind of almost need to follow the folds on
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
Wrong way. Don't put it in backwards. All right, I got the right way now.
Again, you did that
I'm
on
like, why
purpose.
is it not
You
going?
did that on purpose
right?
for all of us.
No, you should see the mistakes I make at home. My seam ripper is my friend.
And I'm looking at the pins on the table, and you don't want to use pins on a project
No.
like this. It's just not going to work.
You can. I have used them, but they're because it has holes or it's a little bit slippery. So you have to be more careful of when you're placing it and start sewing it. But I have done it. I prefer the clips.
Yeah. And we haven't talked about the foot, so we don't need a Teflon foot or anything like that for this project, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Okay, this is what it looks like before you turn it, and then you just take and turn.
And you heard the snap.
Snap of the measuring tape. Yep. It does that pop sound.
And I don't know if you guys have seen on my website, but we have snap bag templates that Darla came up with as well. Darla does a lot of stuff with the tape measures and also with the pet mesh. So it's nice to see another new project that includes that combination.
And there you have, it is done.
I love it. All right. If you're interested in any of the Ditty baskets, the Ditty trays, the Ditty baskets that are rectangular, all that stuff, it's Ditty as in Ditty, not the other guy, Ditty. Ditty baskets, Ditty boxes, Ditty trays. You'll see all the combinations there on my website. And if you want a special size, just call me and let me know. All the information is going to be down below in the description, so you can click on that and read through. Well, thank you guys for sharing this. This is a fun project, and I hope everybody out there loves it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.